This is Buffalo Bayou Park in downtown Houston. It is December 15th, 2016. This tends to be the mother lode of arches, if you will. Talk about arches and bridges. They all kind of converge here in downtown Houston. And so it is on this morning here that this troll named Bill, alias Marucci, finds himself under the bridges here in Arch Heaven. And I'm thinking of an urban expression I learned about a year or two ago in Ohio. I was talking to this one guy over lunch at some soup kitchen in Columbus, and I said, you know, it really saddens me how people without means and people without access and people without, you know, housing tend to fight each other instead of support each other. You know, I said it's kind of sad, and it's depressing. He said, yeah, that's a major feature, you know, among many homeless people. And he said, but there's a term for that. I said, what is it? He said, it's called crabs in a barrel. He said, you ever put like a bunch of crabs in a barrel? You know what the crabs do to each other? I'm there, yeah, they eat each other. He said, that's right. And that's the way many people are who are homeless and without need. They kind of fight each other, and you know, nobody gets raised up because they're so busy, you know, fighting each other that, you know, they never get up or get out. I said, well, now I know the term. In Phoenix, I kind of lived that term. I became homeless in Phoenix 3 years now. And before I was homeless, I knew this guy who was homeless, who was about 5-10 years older than me. His name was Brian. And Brian started out as a friend and became a pest. Because Brian was very self-involved. Brian was very, you know, interested only in himself and his life, and which I can understand, you know, being homeless. I can really understand that. But he would like go to great lengths to come to my apartment and tell me about his life on the street as a homeless guy. And, you know, which it didn't bother me, but he never was interested in the person's apartment he was sitting in. And he was never interested in the person who was feeding him sometime at lunch, sharing a lunch with him when he would show up unexpectedly and just sit and talk for hours about himself. Never once, you know, asking me about myself and my life in Phoenix. Anyways, I knew him for 5 years or so, and I was civil to him, never had any arguments or anything like that, and he would wander to my apartment here and there, between wandering around the city and the state for that matter. So when I became homeless, I was drinking in some parking lot in an apartment building downtown Phoenix. And he walked by. And and he's chatting on the phone, or at least seemingly to chat on the phone. Brian had this knack of like talking to a dead phone, and it's even as I was a resident, it's when I was a resident, he'd pretend he's talking on some dead phone, and But anyways, I'm drinking, and I notice him. He walks by me, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess he's going somewhere. And then he comes back and walks the other way by me. And then he starts pacing like in the parking lot while I'm drinking. He never once stops his conversation. Never once comes up to me and says, hey, Bill, also known as Marucci, why are you sitting here in a parking lot drinking a beer? Why aren't you doing it at your apartment? Never once. Instead, he just hold the phone to his ear and talk. So I came to find out later that he was staying at this apartment building that I was drinking a beer in the parking lot. So time went on, and there was a Friday night that I was drinking somewhere about 2 or 3 blocks away from his apartment building where he was staying. And I'm drinking, and everybody's out. It's a Friday night in the summer in Phoenix, downtown. That's growing by leaps and bounds. And the police come up to me. The police officers in Phoenix come up to me, 2 of them, with Brian. And I'm like, and then, the police officer says, you cannot drink, and it's just, this gentleman called us, and, he's worried about your drinking and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, is he? I say, yeah, so it's, you just can't drink in public. You have to, go someplace private to drink. They're, okay, officer, fine. Like maybe an apartment? Oh, that would be fine too. That would be no problem. So they dismiss me, and I walk by Brian, and he does not say a word. Another week goes by, and I'm drinking now in a parking lot about 3 or 4 blocks away from Brian's place. And it's a Sunday night. It's a pod mall that's closed. It's all like kind of Monday through Friday businesses, and it's closed. It's a weekend, and it's a Sunday night, and I'm sitting there by myself, just drinking, having a beer. I'm awoken about 3 in the morning by this bright light. It turns out to be a police officer's car, and there's a Phoenix police officer standing over me. And I stand up, and I notice again behind his shoulder is Brian. And the police officer, I look at Brian, and he looks at me, and he says, there, I told you, officer. There he is. Now, mind you, it is 3 o'clock on a Monday morning, and Brian has nothing better to do than call the police on me because I'm passed out in a vacant parking lot that's not going to have any business until 9 in the morning. So I was arrested that night by Brian's phone call. I get out of jail a day or 2 later, and I'm hungry, I'm starving, I want to eat, I'm tired of bologna sandwiches. So I'm waiting for the bus, the free shuttle bus that'll take me to the shelter to have breakfast at St. Vincent de Paul's. And I noticed Brian coming down the street. Here, they say, is the kicker. I look at Brian coming down the street, and I said, just ignore him. Just pretend like, you know, just ignore him. Mind you, I want to put his head through like the wall, but I'm like, just ignore him. You know, he'll go away. Just let him go on by about his business. You know, you gotta live here too, you know, so he comes by and he stops over me. And he says, Bill, also known now as Marucci, is there anything I can do to help you? I like these arches here. You got an old arch here among all these beautiful arches, okay? And you got an old arch over there, you know, the other side of the bridge, if you will, the other side. But you know what's sad with these two arches? These two old arches among this new concrete and installation is that neither arch supports the other. There's no bridge between them.